everyone, and welcome back to the Abroad Chronicles. If this is your first Q&A video that you're watching on my channel, I'm going to recommend that you start with part 1 of this video, which is the post-study abroad Q&A video, because I'm going to continue the questions with part 2 in this video. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Aidan. I just returned home from studying abroad for 4 months in Budapest, Hungary. I had the most amazing time, and I'm here to answer your questions about studying abroad in hopes that you'll do it yourself. Alright, so I'm going to start off with question 11 for this video, since I answered 1 through 10 in the last video. Also, side note, I am repping my BFP apparel today, Budapest. If you know, you know. Okay, so question 11. Are you happy with the term that you studied abroad and the place that you chose? So yes, I am happy with both. I think that studying abroad in the fall is perfect if you're studying abroad in the northern hemisphere, which includes all of Europe, because you get the best weather at the end of summer at the beginning of your time abroad while you still have money in the bank and you have that real itch to travel. By the end of studying abroad, I kind of just wanted to spend time in Budapest and enjoying like my home away from home before I had to leave it, and I didn't travel for the last, I think, month I was abroad. So I would recommend studying abroad in the fall if you're studying in the northern hemisphere, but if you are in the southern hemisphere, like Australia for example, I would recommend studying abroad in the spring because their summer is our winter. And as far as studying abroad in Budapest itself, I do not regret that one bit. I definitely pushed myself out of my comfort zone on that one, and I am so thankful because I learned so much from that opportunity. And it's really a place that's like, I don't think I would have traveled to if I didn't study abroad there. So yeah, 10 out of 10 recommend studying abroad in Budapest. It's unlike any other place you can choose. If I were to go back and redo my time abroad, I would choose Budapest, but if I were to study abroad again for like a second semester, I would choose somewhere else just because there's so many places in the world I want to explore and I'd like to experience something different. Question 12 is, what is something that you wish you knew before going abroad? I wish I had studied Hungarian a little bit just so I would have a base knowledge on the language going in. By the end of my semester, because I took a Hungarian class, I had a really good base of the language and I could order in Hungarian and go to a grocery store and ask for food. I could ask for directions. I could carry on a basic conversation, and I wish I had some of that knowledge going in because I was a little bit more respected, I found, by the locals when I started a conversation in Hungarian. So that's one thing, but in general, I liked not knowing everything going in because it forced me to learn new things and how to deal with situations that I might not be 100% comfortable with, and I grew so much in that process. Overcoming challenges and having to navigate cultural and language barriers really is a huge part of the study abroad experience, so don't be afraid to go in not knowing much about your host country or the language or not knowing anyone that you're studying abroad with. Don't let that stop you. Question 13 is, what is the most interesting food that you ate? I think the most interesting thing I ate was probably Hungarian fish soup, and I'm not a huge fan of fish other than in sushi, so I wasn't a huge fan, but that was probably the furthest I pushed myself outside of my comfort zone. But in general, I tried so many new foods from all over the world, and that's one of the things that I miss most about being abroad, was the variety of different cultures worth of food. I really pushed myself outside of the comfort zone in that aspect, but nothing too unique. Question 14 asks, what is the clubbing fashion? So this is a really interesting question and something that you must know if you're studying abroad or going to Europe for travel. I found that no one really wears skirts or dresses, at least in Budapest, and I'm completely fine with that. It was mostly pants, either ripped jeans or dark colored pants with a blouse, maybe a crop top or something that shows a little bit of cleavage, with jewelry, most of the time hoop earrings, And then for men, I'm not super knowledgeable on men's fashion, but I'd say dark pants, sneakers, and like a t-shirt or a button-down shirt would be good. It does get hot, so keep that in mind. And then also you're going to be on your feet all night, so wear comfortable shoes, either like block heels at the absolute most, or then sneakers and slip-on shoes are super popular as well. I mentioned this as being a must-pack item or must-buy abroad item, but a fanny pack is a huge part of my going out outfit every time I went out abroad, because it's really common to get pickpocketed in the clubs, so to have your money, your phone, your ID, and everything right on your chest, it really helps. I will insert some photos right here of what I looked like when I went out. Most of the outfits are all black. That's kind of just a generalization in Europe. And yeah, as you can see, I didn't have a ton of variety, but there you go. Question 15 is from Caroline, my roommate abroad, and it asks, did your apartment flood? Very funny, Caroline. This could be an entire story time video, but yes, my apartment did flood. Our ceiling caved in and flooded our entire apartment, not once, but twice. Both on Saturday the 14th, which means it was the morning after Friday the 13th. Not sure if that's a coincidence, but hey, just putting that out there. But thank you so much, API, especially Geeta and our property manager, or the homeowner of our apartment, for helping us so much. That was definitely a stressful situation, but once again, those challenges are what make you learn, so I'm thankful for it. Question 16 was probably my most asked question, and it's how much money did you spend? So I thought going in that I was going to keep super close track of how much money I spent and do a whole video on like how I budgeted and how much money I spent on food versus traveling versus like activities, etc. But it was just so much to keep track of. I estimate that I spent in between $5,000 and $7,000, probably in the like 6 to 7 range. But I don't exactly know, because I kind of just like spent money willingly and didn't want to worry about holding myself back from having the experiences that I did. Also, I worked all summer and saved up, I think it was $10,000, doing odd jobs as well as a paid internship and babysitting, so that I could have the most fun that I possibly could have. And I would recommend, if you're going abroad, to save up at least $7,000 to $10,000 so that you can not hold back and travel every weekend and have just the most wonderful time ever. Also, a side note, that estimate of $5,000 to $7,000 does not include my tuition and housing. That would have to include a few thousand more dollars on the top of that, but thankfully my parents and grandparents pitched in on that one, so thank you for your help in assisting me to have such an amazing semester. I love you guys. Question 17 is, did you experience culture shock? And to be honest, there wasn't a huge culture shock for me going in, because I expected the way of life to just be so different. But then actually it was funny when I came home, because I was expecting everything to, you know, just naturally feel normal to me. For example, when I got back, I thought about how weird it was, how gigantic our grocery stores are. I don't know why that was such a thing that stuck out to me, but they are huge in comparison to the ones in Europe. And also the cashiers in Europe sit down, which is interesting, and here they stand, which never struck me as weird, but that really does stink to be on your feet for an entire shift while you could be sitting. Some other things that I noticed were our lack in variety of cultural food. I feel like here, because America is known as like the melting pot, we would have so many different types of food, but all the cultural food that we have is so Americanized, it shocks me now. Yeah, there were just a lot of small things that stuck out to me once I got home that kind of were a culture shock in returning to the US, but I can't think of them all. In conclusion, though, for that question, I would say culture shock was not a problem in Hungary. It's a lot like the US in some ways, and there were definitely a lot of people that speak English that could help me in answering any questions that I had. Question 18 is, what did you do for a cell phone plan? And I actually went to Hungary with the normal SIM card in my phone that I have from the United States. And then in the first couple of days while I was abroad, a group of my friends and I went to their local cell phone provider and bought a SIM card there. And it was super cheap. The company was called Telenor. And we got it was $18 for the first month, which was the SIM card plus 5 gigs, and then I believe it was like $7 to $10 every month after that for 5 gigs, so super affordable compared to the phone plans that you would have buying an international plan through Verizon or AT&T. Question 19 is, what were your favorite things to do in Budapest? And there were so many things that I could talk about, but I'm going to highlight just a few. I think my number one favorite thing to do in Budapest was to visit the castle district, and this includes Budapest Castle, Fisherman's Bastions, St. Matthias Church, as well as a bunch of different other things. But I used to love to go there when I was studying abroad just to see the sights because it's such a beautiful place. Fisherman's Bastion, in my opinion, has the best view of the Parliament and the city in general. It's such a beautiful, magical place. It looks like a castle from Disney or something. So I would always go there with my friends to take photo shoots, or I went on a date night with Jordan to Jamie's, and we got to go to Fisherman's at night when it was all lit up, so that was super special. That was on one of our last nights. So yeah, I'll always remember that place. It holds a special place in my heart. And then also I liked going to City Park, where the I forget the name of the castle that's there, but there's another castle there, as well as the ice skating rink was there in the winter, which was super cute. And then I never got there when it was warm enough, but I heard that in the summer they have rowboats there, so I wish I had been able to do that. And then Széchenyi baths is an absolute must. I only went there once, but yeah, going to the baths in Budapest is, you just have to do it. They're so well known. And then I absolutely adored the Christmas markets. If you haven't seen my Christmas in Budapest video, you gotta check that one out. It's so magical spending Christmas in Europe in general, let alone in Budapest. And then lastly, I loved going to the Central Market to see all the fresh fruit and getting to grocery shop there with such local, fresh, and wholesome ingredients. Jordan, my boyfriend, as well as Steven, one of our best friends, really got into cooking, and they were super passionate about experimenting with different ingredients that we found in Budapest, and I was their taste tester, so that was one of my absolute favorite things to do in Budapest. Question 20 is, what classes did you take and how were they? So I took 5 classes when I was abroad. I took Hungarian, beginner's Hungarian, which was super valuable to me because you got to use that language every day communicating with the locals, and you would just see their face light up when you greeted them in Hungarian and asked a question in Hungarian. Even if you couldn't exactly understand their response and then had to ask it in English, they still gave you a lot more respect. Second, I took globalization, which was an economics class, and I loved this class because we got to talk about globalization, which is the spread of information and trade, ideas, etc. across the world with people from all across the world. So that class, I didn't learn a lot from the curriculum itself because of the way the class was structured, but I learned so much just through class discussion about different cultures and how they go about like marketing and sales and business in general. I took another economics class, which was international economics, and this was by far my hardest class. I really struggled because it was so math-based, and it is a lot harder to take math-based classes abroad. I had friends that took finance classes and struggled even more than I did in international econ, but still, compared to classes in the US, I thought it was on par or maybe even a little less hard, but because I was studying abroad and traveling every weekend, I struggled with that one. The 4th class that I took was called Startups Business Enterprise, and this was a really cool class because we had the opportunity to start a fake company, and then throughout the semester we would grow that company based off of the lessons that our professor taught us, and then our final assessment was to pitch our company to investors, and we didn't get real money, of course, but we got their input And I thought that was super valuable, seeing that one of my goals in life is to possibly start a company of my own. So I learned so much from that class. And then the fifth and final class I took was Explorations of the Urban Space. And if you are studying at Corvinus University as an abroad student, you 100% have to take this class. It was so cool. Basically, you go on walking field trips every class, which class happens once a week, and you have professors that are tour guide certified, and they just talk about the architecture, the art, the history, the culture, etc. And this by far was the most valuable class that I took abroad. It was like getting a professional tour every week of the city, so I came away knowing so much about my host city. So yeah, I will never forget that class. It was amazing. The last question, question 21, is would you recommend someone to study abroad? And yes, the answer is I would recommend everyone to study abroad. There would have to be a very unique circumstance for me to recommend you not study abroad, because I really can't think of a valid reason not to. In a lot of cases, you can find a country that tuition is actually cheaper than studying in the US, and then you can just not travel and rather stay in your host country and partake in free activities if budget is an issue, if homesickness is an issue. I can promise you that the experience that you will gain will outweigh the homesickness, and you will make friends that will support you through those tough times. Studying abroad has been just such an invaluable experience to me that I can't recommend it enough. If you have any questions or would like to reach out to me personally about any issues that you might be having with applying or studying abroad, you can follow me on Instagram in the description below and DM me. I'd be happy to talk to you. Or also you can leave questions in the comments down below on this video or on any of my videos. If I get enough comments, I could do a part 3, but as for right now, these were all the questions that I had. I hope you enjoyed this video. This has been such a wild ride, and I'm glad that I was able to take you along with me through these vlogs, and I cannot wait to look back on these videos 5, 10, 15 years from now and reminisce about the best time in my entire life. Okay, that's all for today. Bye.